I realized that you're all here on this side. Because I was looking at the map. I haven't been able to see.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to the third Asten Conference on Teaching Competency Development, Issues, Innovations, and Initiatives. I hope you all had a very good lunch. So, was the food okay? Okay, good. Okay, we are very glad that you enjoyed the food because we try to make the best to our delegates and all the participants, okay? We try to make all of you feel the most comfortable as much as we can. If there is anything that you would like us to make you feel better or more comfortable, please do not hesitate to let us know, okay? Okay, after the session will be a very interesting one because will be the country presentations of our Asten member countries, okay? It will be on teacher competency standards in ASEAN countries. So we have 8 country presentations, okay, in ASEAN. And may I invite all the presenters to be sitting in the front row, okay? Since we have the time for this session, 90 minutes, okay? We will end our session at about 2:30 or 2:45. So we have 8 country presentations. We need to keep our time strictly on time. So each country has 10-minute presentation, okay? And as you see on the table here in front of you, we put all the flag of each country, meaning that all the presenter, once each presenter has done a presentation over here, then at the end, we will call upon all the presenters to be sitting over there and have some kind of like Q&A, okay? So that will be the whole presentation here today, okay? So I would call upon the presenter in order, alphabetically, okay? We would have our time management, okay? So when we have like 3 minutes left, we would show a sign, and then when we have 1 minute left, then we will show a sign. Okay, when each presenter finishes the presentation, then the person could go back to sit at the chair over there first, and at the end, I will call upon everyone to be sitting over there for the Q&A. Okay, so that's how we're gonna run this session. Okay, so first of all, in this session, I would go by the first country to do the country presentation. As you have heard this morning from our keynote speaker, Professor John Hope, I think he has brought us a new perspective on the future of teacher education. As he mentioned, not the past, not now, but the future. And in order for us to look at the future of teacher education in ASEAN, we should look at the future of our students, the future of our children, not at the teacher, but we need to look at the students, the future children. But this session would give us to understand and to see what our countries in ASEAN are doing in terms of teacher education. In order to look forward, we need to understand our present. Okay, so this session will give you the understanding of the present situation of teacher education in ASEAN countries. So I would go by the first country, would be the presenter from Brunei. Let me introduce you each presenter first, okay, so that I don't have to come back here and repeatedly. The presenter from Brunei Darussalam would be Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid.
No, that's wrong. That's from Indonesia.
That's Indonesia.
I'm sorry. Professor, I think, so the presenter from Brunei Darussalam, Professor Bayhaqi bin Hasham Yusuf. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Could you please stand up so that like everyone can see you? Okay. That's from Brunei Darussalam. Okay. And from Cambodia would be Dr. Siang Sovana. Okay. Over there. And from Indonesia would be Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid. Okay. Thank you. And from Myanmar would be Dr. Mielwin. Dr. Mielwin, okay, from Myanmar. And from Philippines would be Dr. Rita Rusco, okay. And from Singapore would be Dr. Lei Hun Jessie, okay. And from Thailand would be Dr. Chatri Phaikamta, okay. And the last one from Vietnam would be Dr. Khao Thi Khao Thuai, okay, from Vietnam, okay. So I will call upon the first presenter first, from Brunei Darussalam, okay, Professor Mohammed Humi Baikadi bin Ashram Yusof for the presentation from Brunei Darussalam. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Very good afternoon to our respected guests and speakers. Today I would like to share about the Brunei Teachers Standard, what we call BTS. First of all, a few seconds about my country. If you Google our country, Brunei Darussalam, these are the pictures that is mostly seen. The flag, our map, our king, the Sultan of Brunei, which is our university chancellor, the mosque, and also the ecotourism of Brunei. What is the Brunei Teachers Standard basically? BTS is a set of teaching competencies designed to raise the quality of teaching in order to improve the attainment of all students and overall education in Brunei Darussalam. As we know that all Bruneians are blessed with free education from primary level to university level provided by the government since the formal education set up in 1950s. So how will we when we will see the impact of this BTS? For your information, this BTS has been implemented since January recently 2016, and it is embedded in the education system, and it is used as a platform for the teachers' performance appraisal. As a landmark or as a guideline to assess the teacher's performance. So what is the BTS framework basically? This is the BTS framework. Okay. I know it's difficult to read, but I zoom it, which is consisting of first professional knowledge and skills, and secondly professional engagement. For the professional knowledge and skills, it consists of engaged students in intellectually challenging learning. Secondly, based learning on well-designed content and methods. Third, suits works to students' individual needs. And the fourth, use assessments and reporting effectively. So basically, 80% of these things depends on the oneself of the teachers. Whereas the second one is on the professional engagement, is consisting of adopt and refine professional practice, and the sixth demonstrate high standard of personal and professional conduct. This is mainly on how to sustain the professionalism of the teachers. The first one is engage students in intellectually challenging learning, which is to determine, we have to determine the student capabilities, their existing knowledge, as well as the linguistics, the use of English, Malay or Arabic language. Because some schools in Brunei, they practice Arabic much. Secondly, have high expectations and set goals which challenge all students whatever background or ability. Under that, whatever subject the teacher teach, they need to promote high standards of communication, including literacy, numeracy, and clear, correct speech. The third one is to promote intellectual curiosity and love of learning through a questioning and reflective attitude, with opportunities to be creative and employ higher order skills of analysis, synthesis, and interpretation. And of course, teachers must encourage students to take responsibility for their own learning and to recognize the importance of their effort in achieving success, because every people have unique of and strength. Second one is based learning on well-designed content and methods. Of course, teachers must have good knowledge and understanding of the subjects that they teach, and good planning, and ensuring that the teaching includes both theory, this is very, very critical, and its application to the world outside the classroom. This is what Professor John Bob just mentioning about the kind of formative assessments which the students themselves experience while they're learning the theories. Under that, these are the guidelines, give clear directions and exercise appropriately, and of course last, manage students effectively by setting and communicating clear expectation of behavior, sharing them with the range of appropriate actions which may apply to recognize good behavior, character, and to discourage unacceptable behavior. So we also emphasize how to instill values that supports our national philosophy, which is the Malay Islamic monarchy. Of course, we are enhancing and encouraging the students to use ICT. So the government has invested a lot in buying sort of technologies, iPads, that makes available to every student, especially those who are in the government school. And of course, SSS students will work formally and informally during the lesson and in various ways. So they try to modify the kind of assessments that we have. Before, we just have 100% writing assessments. Now they are dividing 60 or 40% writing and also doing some presentations in every standard Brunei education system. The third one suits work. How many minutes now? I need to. Okay. Suits work to students' individual needs. So again, Professor Luthoff has now said we must develop the education system according to the needs of our people. While we are trying to increase the international or trying to attract international students, we must not forget the main and own needs of our people. And under the let's see, under the professional engagement, which consists of adopt and refine professional practice and demonstrate high standards of personal and professional conduct. These are the elements that should be insist in every teachers in Brunei Darussalam, is to understand how students learn and employ the methods which have the greatest impact on students' learning. It says, if you teach preschool or lower primary students, whatever your subject, be familiar with phonics and methods of developing numerical skills. So these are the exact criteria that is designed by the Ministry of Education that should be implemented and practiced among all the teachers in Brunei Darussalam. And one of the critical factors that is keep up to date in the subjects you teach. Identify your own professional development needs and participate in relevant training. So we must keep up to date the subjects that we teach. For example, if we teach philosophy, it deals with classical scholars. So we must also make comparative studies about the modern philosophers, because I teach philosophy in my university. Contribute to the curriculum development within the religion subject area, and contribute positively to the aims and the ethos of the school. So every teacher must have responsibility not just in the classroom, but to develop the school holistically. And the final one is every teacher must demonstrate high standards of personal and professional conduct. In Arabic, this is called sahsiyah or akhlaq. Akhlaq means our character that is important in developing not just inside the classroom but also outside the classroom, so that every one of us, or even they will be a good future citizens to the world. Because as you know nowadays, as Professor says, in the media, how many percent we heard about peaceful news. Okay. So demonstrate high ethical and moral standards at all times in the classroom and when engaged in professional activities. Acknowledge the concerns. We must understand the concerns, values, and priorities of student families and cultures and communities. Thank God that in Brunei, the Ministry of Education and the government has taken care a lot in the students' needs. For example, if they don't have transport, the government will provide a bus, school bus, and also up to food and drinks, and including breakfast provided to them. The third factor is develop professional relationship with colleges, parents, and the wider community. So they need to engage with the community so that they can see that the knowledge is alive. It's not just alive in the paper or books, but it's alive outside. This is very, very critical because the students' identity reflects our identity as well. The fourth is maintain high standards of attendance and punctuality in the workplace and professional at all times, and keep well informed regarding official policies, regulations, and other requirements as appropriate. So we need to update the policies. Some change maybe that is according to what was being stated in the Education Act, for instance. Or keep the students up to date about what is going on with the development of the country, or every national functions and everything. This must be informed to the students, so that the students have the instill of having a good patriotism to the country. This is one of the important aspects, how to instill patriotism towards the country. Because if we see nowadays on the gadgets or on the Facebook, how many information can they obtain that tells about their country, comparing to the entertainment, sport they are exposed to. Yeah. So this is important factor to instill the culture and the love towards the country and the people. That's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you very much for a very good presentation from Brunei Darussalam. Since we have very time limitation, I will call upon next presentation from Cambodia, Professor Anna.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sing Savannah. I'm a representative from Cambodia. Today I'm very pleased to present you about national competency standard for teacher and teacher educator in Cambodia. So how can I make this slide? So now line of my presentation consists of 5 parts. The first one I will brief introduction about Cambodia, and the second one I will tell you the short story, the short history of education system in Cambodia. The third one statistic of education of Cambodia, teacher training system, and then national competency standard of teachers and teacher education educator in Cambodia. Maybe everybody knows this is Cambodia. Where is that? Cambodia is located in Southeast Asia and share border with Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. And this country has a population of 14.5 million, and we have the land areas 181.35 kilometers square. This country was plunged into the civil war for nearly 3 decades, since 1970 to 1997. And during the war, all infrastructure of the countries has been demolished. And maybe you already know that the biggest destruction was in the Khmer regime, ruled by Pol Pot from 1975 to 1979. And during this period, during 1975 to 1979, almost all educated people such as doctor, officer, teachers and students were killed or evicted from the countries. And also classroom books and other educational material were burned and destroyed. Most school buildings, laboratory materials and equipment were demolished or used for other purpose, because they were sought as the product of feudalism, capitalism and imperialism of the previous regime. And in January 1979, the Khmer regime was collapsed. But however, Cambodia still suffered from the civil wars, which dragged out until 1997. Moreover, during that time, Cambodia was ignored by the international communities until the general election run by the United Nations in 1993 after the Paris Peace Accord in 1991. And between 1979 and 1993, Cambodia receives support only from the former Soviet Union and Vietnam. And although Cambodia faced with such situation, the government did many efforts to rebuild the countries. First of all, the country tries its best to adjust itself in global as well as regional aspect. And finally, Cambodia became a member country joining ASEAN in 1999. And the World Trade Organization member in 2004. And in terms of gender education system in Cambodia, before 1975, we adopt 13-year gender education system. This means that 6 years in primary, 3 years in lower secondary, and 4 years in upper secondary level, and with 4 national examination. As I mentioned earlier, that between 1975 to 1979, Cambodia no education system at all for property, so no education during that time. And from 1979 to 1986, we start to establish our education system again, and during that time we adopt 10-year education. So it means that 4 years in primary, 3 years in lower secondary, and 3 years in upper secondary, with 3 national examinations. It means that in each level, they have to take the national examination in order to pass from one level to the other level. And from 1986 to 1989, Cambodia adopted 13 educational system, 11 educational system. This means that 5 in primary, 3 in lower secondary, and 3 in upper secondary. And recently, we adopt 12-year education system. So we start from 1996 until now. Our education system is 12 years, but only with 2 national examinations. And here is the statistic of education in Cambodia in the school year 2016 to 2017. We have 13,876 schools throughout the country, from pre-primary until upper secondary school. Among those, 987 are private school. And we have the total student of our country is around 3.25 million. Amongst those 168,000, more than 168,000 are private students. Yeah. So this means that amongst 5 people, there is 1 people in the school. And we have teacher totally is now 121,051 teachers. So EDC, we have enough teacher, but in reality we don't have enough teacher because we have a problem of shortage and surplus teacher that we need to discuss in the future also among the Asten, how do we retain the teacher and how can we deploy the teacher, especially to deploy from the surplus to the shortage. And here is the teacher training institution. We have 27 teacher training institution, and each level touched by different institutions. For example, preschool, they have to get the training at National Preschool Teacher Training Center, so only produce preschool teacher. And for National Institute of Education, it means that my place just produce only upper secondary school teachers. But in the future, by 2020, we have a policy to reform. So all level of teachers must be 12+4. It means bachelor degree of education. And for the upper secondary level, will be master degree +1 in the future. So if we see this comparison is that the teacher education in Cambodia, it means that the period of the training very short, very lower, especially at pre-primary to lower secondary level comparing to the other countries. Even though we have the different standard like that, but all teacher training institutions have to comply with the national competition standard of teacher and teacher educator. There are 4 main competency standards. The first one, teacher after they graduate from the Institute of Education, they must consist of professional knowledge, professional practice, professional study, and professional ethics. So professional knowledge, they must be master at to know student. It means that teacher must know student, especially know their learning need, their capacity, their academic background, and attitude to learnings. So teacher should know clearly about family status and factors that affect student learning and how to resolve those factors. First of all, gender, because maybe in a family with only single gender, maybe the learning style is different from the multi-gender, female and male families. So professional leaders and the teachers must be aware of national educational policies, national education goal, and purpose of general education. Like this morning presentation, that we want our students to become the future for the countries. Yeah. And understand curriculum and sixth, understand how to integrate content, something like that. This is the content knowledge. And for the professional practice, they must know the following. Prepare correct and effective lesson plan, prepare teaching and learning material, something like that. Employs variety of appropriate way of assessing student learning, and follow up student participation. And for this is the professional practice. And professional study, they must understand this for this 5 main criteria. It means that regularly and all teaching and make a plan for professional development, develop knowledge, ICT, something like this. And the last one is that professional ethics. So they must have these 4 criteria. So caring for students and working in the interest of students and society, demonstrate commitment and responsibility to teaching profession, something like this. So this is a competency that we develop in our country. So because of the time very short, so I would like to stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Savannah from Cambodia. Next will be presentation from Indonesia by Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid. Please welcome.
The timing must be given. I say good afternoon. Good afternoon. You can begin timing. This is indeed an honor for me to be assigned by my university president, who is right now here, to present the country report of Indonesia regarding standardization of teacher education in Indonesia. I was vice president of my university back 15 years ago, and then assigned to become director of institutional development in the Ministry of Education, and then I became deputy minister for education in the coordinating ministry of people's welfare. So I have the privilege of having access to information regarding standardization of teacher education in Indonesia. Let me begin by problems we are facing. Policy first. The policy in teacher education is especially focused on improvement of anyone involved, including teachers and also other educational personnel, both in terms of the number that should be increased and also in terms of the quality that they could provide to education. So the basic thing is strengthening learning and improving student affairs, in the process of teacher education as a whole. Problems that we are facing in basic education, and what we mean by basic education is the first 6-year primary education and the 3-year of junior secondary education. We have insufficient number of professional teachers, and if we mention the number, the statistics, our teachers are expected to serve more than 65 million students throughout the country. 65 million students. It's more than the population you have in each of other countries in ASEAN. And then at the same time, we are confronted with lack of facilities and also lack of parental and community involvement. So therefore, we are gearing in the process of education, talking about globalization of education, trends in PISA assessment and also in TIMSS assessment, and therefore we need to improve at the level of teacher education institutions as well as at the level of teaching learning practices at school. So therefore, if we take a look at the number of teacher education institutions in our country, we have more than 400 at the moment, teacher education institutions. And one of the problems we have is that more than 30% of teacher education institutions in our country are not yet accredited by the Ministry of Research and Higher Education. So we still need to improve that. If we take a look at the quality and the competence of our teachers throughout the country, we have regularly administered national written exams on professional and also pedagogical competencies of our teachers. And the results, which was conducted in 2015, not very satisfying for all of us, because on the average the score was just a little bit 55 point something, and the ideal score actually that we would expect is 75. So in the process of standardizing teacher education institutions, we have some steps that we would like to go through. Number one is the standardization of teacher education institutional management. So this is the first area that we would like to work on. We would like to have the management of teacher education institutions which are accountable, adopting modern technology-based handling type. And the second one is standardization of the recruitment process. So we would like to have more rigorous ways of selecting student candidates into teacher education. Number three, standardization of teacher education institution curriculum. Number one, to make the curriculum learning outcome based on the one hand, and the second point is, since the country has what we call right now national qualification framework, so we have to align our curriculum into the national qualification framework. The fourth step in our standardizing teacher education is standardizing the facilities and infrastructure. For example, at the moment we are providing dormitories for students of teacher professional development. There is students who have completed the 4-year academic teacher education program. So in the last final professional development of 1 year, they are expected to be provided with a dormitory. Staying 1 year together professionally, they could enhance and enrich among themselves in terms of professional teaching. And number 6 is 3 more minutes, I can tell. Is the provision of lab schools and teacher education institution school partnership, which is very important. Therefore, we have some targets for 2017, 2018, and 2019. And if we take a look at it, the policies and strategies in the government have been now outlined as regards teacher education reform. So we are targeting 3,500 vocational school teacher education, 2,500, and so on and so forth, those statistics. But basically, at the end, what we would like to have is professional teachers who could then provide and produce the outcomes in our education, one of which, the indicators, could be better improve students at our schools in competing globally through the assessment of PISA or TIMSS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Fu. I think this is the first presentation that finished before time. Okay. So next we will call upon our presentation from Myanmar, Dr. Myo Win from Yan Thong University of Education. Please, we are welcome.
Welcome everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to have the chance to present our competency standard.
Show it.
In our competency, there are 4 domains. I noticed that these domains are the same as the domains that are presented by the Cambodia and Brunei. The first domain is professional knowledge and understanding. The second one is professional skills and practices. And the third one, professional values and disposition. And the last one is CBD, that's mean continuous professional development. Each domain consists of some competency, but in this slide I cannot include all the competency area because of short presentation. I will present some examples. To know whether teachers are competent in this area or not, we will use some indicators. By using these indicators, we can decide whether teachers are competent in this area or not. The first domain is professional knowledge and understanding. This domain consists of 4 competency areas. The first one is understanding of target learning. Whether teachers are competent in this area or not, we will use some indicator. They must understand adult learning theories and principles. They must be able to adjust lesson delivery depending on individual differences. And the second area of competence is knowledge of curriculum framework. Teachers must have the thorough knowledge of competency area. As an indicator, we can use whether they can explain the basic education curriculum organization. And the next competent area is teachers must be competent in the subject they are going to teach. As an indicator, we will use they must have a thorough knowledge of subject, content, using appropriate classroom activities. And they must be able to keep up their talk with new development in content area. They must be able to guide the trainee how to expand their subject matter knowledge. And the last area is educational theory. As a theoretical knowledge, they must be able to understand appropriate learning activities with the understanding of educational theory and based on their strengths and weaknesses. Second domain is professional skills and practices. Under this domain, there are 4 competency areas. The first one is lesson planning. We will use some indicator to know whether they can plan a lesson or not. The next point is training strategies. Teachers must have different types of teaching strategies. As an indicator, we will use whether they can apply appropriate teaching learning strategies and material and resources. And they must be model and facilitate any teaching practical. And they must be able to utilize effective learning strategies, including ICT. The second domain of that competency area is assessment strategies. As a teacher, they must have different strategies for assessment. As an indicator, we will use whether they can use different assessment techniques, whether they can conduct reliable, valid, and accountable formal assessment. And they must be able to provide constructive feedback to trainees. Next area is learning environment. As a teacher, we must be able to create a positive learning environment. As an indicator, we will use the following factors. They must be able to maintain positive interaction between teachers and educator and trainees. They must be able to incorporate different approaches. And they must be able to create a positive learning environment. The third domain is proficiency, professional values and disposition. It consists of 2 competency areas. Under this competency area, we will use some indicator. As a teacher, they must be able to behave professionally competent manner. They must keep rules, regulations, and ethics. They must be committed to his profession and responsibility. I think this factor is very important as a teacher. The next point is professional leadership. Teachers, as an indicator, we will use these points. May I skip due to the short presentation. The fourth domain is continuous professional development. This consists of only 1 competency area. Teachers must initiative for continuous professional development. They must practice self-reflection and develop their own professional development practice. They must be able to participate in professional development activities such as attending academic forums, conferences, and publishing papers and articles. This is the competency area for basic education teacher. It also composes of 4 domains, the same as teacher educator. But the proficiency area may not be the same. It consists of 4 domains. The first one is professional knowledge and understanding. The second one, professional knowledge, skills and practices. And the third one, professional values and disposition. Each domain consists of, as I mentioned earlier, consists of some competency. Whether teachers are competent in this area or not, we will use some indicators. Because my presentation is very short, I will leave some indicators. The first domain consists of professional knowledge and understanding. Under this domain, we have 3 competency areas. As a teacher, they must be able to respond to students' learning styles and needs, and they must have thorough knowledge on curriculum framework, and they must be able to master the subject they are teaching. Second domain is professional skills and practices. Under this domain, 6 competency areas are included. The first one is lesson planning, applying appropriate teaching methods, teaching and learning material, classroom management, assessment, remedial measure, and collaboration. The third domain, professional value and disposition. They must have professional attitudes and value. They must demonstrate a positive attitude to their profession. They must have positive value and behavior which are expected of students. And another one is they must be able, punctual, well prepared, confident and friendly. They must also have reflective practices. The last one, fourth domain is CBT. This is the same as the teacher competency standard for teacher educator. Teacher must identify professional learning needs and development on their own for CBT. They must be able to participate in professional development activities such as seminar, workshop, conference, action research, etc. They must share their experience with others, their colleagues. This is my end of my presentation. Before I end my presentation, I noticed that as John Hope said this morning, there is no single list of competency area. Our competency may be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miao Min. Okay. I will move on to the next country presentation from Philippines by Dr. Rita B. Roscoe, Dean College of Teacher Development from PNU.
Good afternoon. I will be presenting the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers from the Philippines, and this was developed by the Research Center for Teacher Quality, which is the research arm of the Philippine Normal University, in cooperation with a number of institutions there. The quality of country's educational system cannot exceed the quality of teachers, and I think that was the highlight of the presentation of our speaker this morning. And indeed, teacher quality is a major factor in the achievement of our students and in the promotion of quality learning. And it is in this, I think it is the purpose, and for this purpose, a framework for teacher quality was institutionalized in the Philippines sometimes in 2007. And this is under the CHED Memorandum Order, the Commission of Higher Education Memorandum Order, number 52, Series 2007. And this was also institutionalized in the Department of Education Order, number 32, Series of 2009. And it was then called NCBTS, the National Competency-Based Teacher Standards. But recent developments in the 21st century actually has radically changed the landscape of teacher quality requirements, especially in the Philippines. There are a number of educational reforms that we needed to respond to. For instance, the educational reform of K-12. Sometime in June 2013, under Republic Act of 10.533, the new law of K-12, which was institutionalized, where we add 2 more years for our basic education. And there was a radical reform in the kind of curriculum that we are offering. And so this requires the need to look into the professional standards for teachers. These are some of the requirements I think that we needed to attend to. Okay, the 21st century, the ASEAN integration, and actually the last one is the qualifications framework. In the Philippines, the Research Center for Teacher Quality, or RCTQ of the Philippine Normal University, has developed an evidence-based and nationally validated Philippine professional standards for teachers. And this is what we call PPST. The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers has the following features. It identifies 4 career stages developmental, and lifelong learning. These career stages, which I will expand later, identifies 4 stages for teacher development, which starting from the novice up to the expert teacher. The Philippine Professional Standards has 7 domains, which we will discuss later, and 37 strands, under which each domain there are a number of strands, which defines the more specific dimensions of positive teacher practices. And each strand contains indicators, and there are 37 indicators per career stage. And these are the domains of the Philippine Professional Standards. We identified 7 among them. It includes content, knowledge, and pedagogy, which covers now, for example, teachers' understanding of the content knowledge and its interconnectedness across and within curriculum areas. It also looks into the application of developmentally appropriate pedagogies based on the teacher's understanding of knowledge. It also looks into the learning environment and how teachers would promote a secure and safe learning environment to promote effective teaching learning. And also the third domain will be diversity of learners. That looks into the teacher's understanding of diverse characteristics and needs of students in the field, and how they could design appropriate lessons, methodologies, and strategies to respond to the variety of learners. It also looks at the curriculum and planning, the 4 domains. That looks into how teachers respond to the national and local curriculum requirements. Assessment and reporting, community linkages and professional engagement, personal growth and professional development. And and this is now the first 3 domains. The following are the strands. So for content, knowledge, and pedagogy, there are 7 strands. 1, the understanding of content knowledge and its application within and across curriculum areas. It also looks at the research-based knowledge and principles of teaching and learning, because it looks into the critical understanding of the application of theory and practice in teaching and learning. It looks at the positive use of the information and communication technology, strategies for literacy and numeracy. The last 5, 6, and 7 looks at the way the teacher uses communication to improve teaching and learning. The second domain is learning environment, and these are the strands. How the teachers would provide learner safety and security, maintains fair learning environment, how the teacher would manage classroom structure and activities, support for learner participation, and promotion of purposive learning, management of learner behavior. Take note that for each strand, there are now specific indicators, and there are about 36 indicators that spell out the basic competencies for each. For domain 3, diversity of learners, and this will look into the learner's gender needs, the teacher's ability to understand learner gender needs, strengths, interests, and experiences, the learner's linguistics, cultural, socioeconomic, and religious backgrounds, learners with disabilities and talents, learners in difficult circumstances, and learners from indigenous group. And this has a bearing on how the teacher will design and plan the teaching to address the diverse backgrounds. The next domain will be on curriculum planning, and these are the 5 strands under curriculum learning, curriculum and planning. Planning and management of teaching learning process, learning outcomes aligned with learning competencies, relevance and responsiveness of learning programs, professional collaboration to enrich teaching practice and teaching and learning. As I mentioned, there are specific competencies. For instance, for number 1, the teacher should be able to design lesson plans that would address, that would reflect how they would manage the teaching and learning practice for each area. Under assessment and reporting, these are the 5 strands: design, selection, organization, and utilization of assessment strategies, monitoring, and evaluation of learner progress and achievement, feedback to improve learning, communication of learners' needs, progress, and achievements to key stakeholders, and use of assessment data to enhance teaching and learning. For Domain 6, which I think is something that is unique to our standards, and that is looking into community linkages and professional engagement. This is an attempt on the teacher's competency to develop linkages and partnership with communities to enrich learning and also to increase community engagement in the teaching learning process. This includes narrow learning establishment of learning environments that are responsive to community context, engagement of parents, professional ethics, school policies and procedures. So the last is about personal growth. And this is something to do with putting emphasis on the dignity of the teaching and the dignity of the profession and the ethics required of it. And so these are the strands with. So this is how we look at it, no? And these are, look at the domains, the blue circles represent the domains, and the ones are examples of indicators for each domain and strands. The professional standards for teachers also look at the distinct career stages. The original NCBTS, we moved from, before K to 12, we had the NCBTS, which is one competency for all, and then we move to the professional standards, which specify now a continuum of teaching practice defined in terms of distinct career stages. So in our standards, in the PPST, there are 4 career stages. The first stage will be that stage of the beginning teachers, concerns people who complete their training from TTIs and teacher education institutions. These are the new graduates. And then the second will be the proficient teachers. So there is a separate standard for proficient teachers and concerns an acceptable standard for all teachers. The third is a higher level, which is the highly proficient teachers, which concerns accomplished practitioners who mentor and work collegially with other staff. And the fourth are the distinguished, the highly exemplary teachers who develop the skills and knowledge. And just to give you knowledge of idea of what specific competencies are there across standards. So look at the difference in terms of the competency standards from the beginning up to the distinguished teachers. And these are the careers, okay. So this illustrates now the career stages of the teacher and what was the rationale. Teacher evaluation should be based on professional teaching standards and should be sophisticated enough to assess teaching quality across the continuum development from novice teachers. And I think this is how we look at it. The teacher professional development standards will have implication in all, from hiring of teachers, from the induction program, from the rewards, and from the training that we will get. I think this is the importance of having the teacher education standards provide us inputs to how we will train the teachers. And we have developed in the RCTQ, the center has developed now the different assessment tools that will assess the competencies for each domain. Okay, and this is the group that developed it. They developed the professional standards in a series of workshops, and that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Roscoe. We have 3 more presentations. Right now we have prepared small piece of papers in case if any one of you would like to write down some questions for the discussion at the end. Okay, you can raise your hand and then we'll give you the small piece of paper. Next presentation by Dr. Lei Hun Jessipen from Singapore, Assistant Dean of Practicum from National Institute of Education Singapore. Please, we are welcome.
I'm just going to focus on student teachers, the competencies of student teachers. Okay? Okay. So our pre-service program, our aim is to develop autonomous thinking teachers, like what Dr. Hope said, that we want teachers to be thinking, and who are able to reflect on their roles, draw upon theories and research to deepen their understanding of learning, think systematically about their practice, and adapt their teaching to support the students' learning. So in this diagram, you can see that according to us, a teaching profession, a teacher should be able to know who they are teaching, what and why they are teaching, and how to go about it. And it is putting in practice, and that's where when they go out to school to teach, they are able to apply and able to reflect. And in our program, our focus is on teacher identity and values, deep understanding of learners, strong content and pedagogical mastery, and then the multidisciplinary program, things that they need to know. So if you look at it, we have the values here together with knowledge and skills. So to sum up, this is our underpinning philosophy, right? We have 3 sets of values which we want our student teachers to have: learner-centered values, teacher identity, and service to the profession and community. And like all other institutions, we have skills and knowledge that we want our teachers to have. Doesn't move anymore. The windows will expire soon. According to the thing here. Okay. So, predicum is our spine, right? It's not our institution. This is very important, predicum, and what predicum is all about. We have 5 principles behind the predicum. There is an integrated program that provides student teachers with purposeful mentoring by the teachers in schools and our university supervisors, and that it allows our students to develop their competencies as well as they slowly learn how to take up the responsibilities of the teachers. And it is their access. We give them some standards to look out for, and we assess them according to that. And we want them to develop thinking teachers by going through planned and structured reflection and conversations with the mentors. So in sum, this is the diagram. So here we have, can you see? You can't see. Okay, here. Okay, here's the practical part. No, it doesn't work. Can you see the pointer? Can? Okay, this is the practical, and these are the courses that we want to teach our students. The unique thing, the differentiate between you and NIE in Singapore is that we teach them character and citizenship about Singapore, how to be a Singaporean citizen, teach them the history of Singapore, and then for the education courses, they need to know how to look out for the social context in Singapore, because we are made up of different races and different backgrounds. And during practicum, the student teachers will practice professional practice and inquiry. They will do some little minor research, and they will learn how to reflect, and they will link theory with practice. And the mentoring will come from the teachers in school as well as university supervisor. And we assess the student using some standards, and they have focused conversations with the mentors. So it has been set aside time. They're supposed to sit down with the mentor to talk about, to reflect on what they have learned, and to bring up some issues. And of course, they have opportunities to take up responsibility as a teacher. Okay, and all these will lead them to be autonomous thinker, people with higher order thinking skills. Okay, so during practicum, these are the things that we expect of them, the competencies that we see we want them to have, and the teaching processes divided into 4 parts: lesson preparation, lesson enactment, assessment and feedback, positive classroom culture. Now we work very closely with the Ministry of Education. All these terms we negotiated, and then we speak the same language, so that when our student teachers graduate, they go to school, the teachers in the school also use these terms. Okay? And we also look at professional attributes and attitudes, these 3 areas. The Ministry of Education emphasizes a lot on values, and so how to assess our students' values is actually through the practicum. So this component here we look at. Okay, so these are some of the samples. I will not run through them. I think it's similar in most countries. Lesson enactment is actually like lesson implementation and assessment and feedback. We used to have, in the past we used homework, but then Singaporeans, we tend to do a lot of homework. Okay, so we decided to stray away from that, and then now we just use the term meaningful tasks. So positive classroom culture. Okay, so these are the attitudes that we look out for the teachers, that they are able to focus on the learner-centered values, focusing on the students. And then they themselves should have some of these qualities. By the way, in Singapore, a very common crime now is upskirting. You know, upskirting, take video of ladies with short skirt. More and more people are caught. Okay, so recently one teacher was caught. So I think his future is very big. Yeah. Okay, so service to school as well is important. Okay, so that's the beginning student-teacher, right? These are the things that we look out for. By the time they graduate from NIE, they should show all these things and get ready to become teachers in school. So professional practice, leadership and management, personal effectiveness. And okay, some of these we expect them to have, okay, before they graduate. Some of them, under awareness, is that they know about it, but they will improve further when they go out to be qualified teachers. So, for example, CCA means co-curricular activities when they conduct sports, games, etc. Okay? And then leadership and management. Some of them are born leaders, some are not. So they at least need to have some qualities, and they will develop as time goes by. And personal effectiveness, right? Personal integrity, of course, we expect them to have, but they will show more when they become a qualified teachers. And legal responsibility as a teacher. Okay, and all these you can find, just go to our website, you'll find all these things. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jessie. Very efficient time management. Okay, next from Thailand, Dr. Chadri Phai Kamda. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be a representative of Thailand to present the teacher competency standards of Thailand. First of all, I have 3 questions guiding to my presentation. The first one is, what are attributes of a competent teacher? And how are teacher competency standards developed? And what recommendation to improve teacher competency standards? And as you know that, I'm sure that you all know Thailand very well. Thailand is bordered by Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Malaysia. And it's never colonized by a European power. So I would like to give you the overview of Thai teacher education system first, and then go to the teacher competency standards. And this is Thailand is now, it's like a mixed culture. We are our roots of our culture is agriculture, but right now we are influenced by westernized culture. And since 1999, we have a new curriculum, or called curriculum, and we are in the educational reform since 1999. We have many impacts from that. So we have a new educational act. We focus on constructive-based learning, and we try to decentralize, and we have a new curriculum. And this is the educational systems. The basic curriculum is start from grade 1 to 12, and we have an undergrad and graduate. And right now, Thailand focus on 21st century skills. We try to help our students to have that kind of skills. So let's take a look at the environment of Thai classroom. This is the traditional one, and we would like to help our students to engage the activities and help teachers to do the constructivistic approach. So how to make a student be good citizens. So the quality teachers is very important. Quality teacher makes quality citizens. In Thailand, we have 3 different kinds of programs, teacher education programs. The first one is 5-year undergrad program. This is a majority of teacher education program. Another one is 1-year postgraduate diploma in education, or PGDE. And the last one is 2-year master degree program. This is just only for science and math teachers. And teacher training is for either in university or teacher training colleges. And to develop the curriculum, all teacher education programs have to follow the standards developed by the Teachers Council of Thailand, or TCT. And the Teachers Council of Thailand issue teaching licenses and set out standards for the profession. So it's like very centralized. And the standards is to make, our standard is set of a minimum and essential desired attributes of teachers. So let's take a look at the standards. There are 3 domains of the standard. The first one is knowledge and experience. The second one is practice. And the last one is ethics. So let's take a look in detail. For knowledge and experience, this is for preserve teacher education program. We have 11 strands under this domain. And also, it's required student teachers have to do their practicum and practice their student teaching for a year. This is 5-year program. So it's very long for their student teaching. So as I mentioned, there are 11 strands. The first one is teacherhood. Second one, educational philosophy, languages and culture, psychology for teachers, curriculum, teaching and classroom management, research for developing students' learning, ICT for education, measurement and evaluation for learning, educational assurance, and the last one, course and ethics. So this is an example. I will not go into detail for all 11 strands, but I just would like to give you some example. For the 5th strand, curriculum, in the standard, there are knowledge and performance. The first one is what teachers should know, and the last column is teachers be able to do. For example, curriculum. Teachers are expected to understand the philosophy and concepts of education, history of education in Thailand, vision and strategic plan for education in Thailand, curriculum theories, curriculum development, learning standards, school-based curriculum, issue and trends in curriculum development. Lots of things. This is just only one strand. And the student teacher are expected to be able to analyze curriculum, develop and revise curriculum, evaluate curriculum, and develop school-based curriculum. So this is the knowledge, or our knowledge. So let's take a look at the experience. As I mentioned, the student teacher are expected to do observation and participation, and then do student teaching for a year. To observe and participate in the school and the classroom, they have to bring all knowledge into practice, studying student learning by observing and interviewing students, participating in school curriculum development, lesson planning, participating in teaching practice, and do some project in the school. And for 1-year student teaching, they have to bring all what they have learned from the 4 years into their teaching. So for the student teaching, the student teacher are assigned to teach the specific subjects. So I will skip this and you can take a look at it. Okay, I will skip to another domain. The second one, practice. Actually in the standard curriculum, it's called practice, but for my understanding, it's personal competence, which consists of 11 areas. The first one is regularly engage in academic activities related to professional development, conduct various activities, taking into account the outcomes on their students, commit to developing their students to reach their full potential, develop teaching plans for practical implementation, regularly develop effective instructional media and materials, organize instructional activities that focus on generating positive and long-lasting outcomes from their students, systematically report the results of students' quality development, act as good role models for their students, constructively cooperate with others in the community, seek out and use information for their own development. And the last one is create opportunities for students to learn from all kinds of situations. This is personal competencies. So for the last one, for the ethic one, I will skip it and because we have very short time, so I will give some recommendation of our standards. As I mentioned, as we can see, there are 3 domains of teacher competency. The first one is professional competency or knowledge and experience. The second one is personal competence or competency and ethical competency. But I think we won't have some kind of like a value or the main goals for preparing teachers. For my understanding or my belief, we have to have a common value to prepare our students in Thailand. For my understanding, I think this is very important for Thai education. We have to prepare teachers as a change agent to help our students to transform their life, to get a better life. And if we compare Thai teacher competence standards, it's quite similar to CMO Innotech, but it's not quite clear for Thai. But when I look at the documents from CMO Innotech, it's really quite clear for each domain, right? For each domain. And you can take a look and go into detail for these documents. So, what we have and what we have to focus more. As you can see from Thai teacher competence standards, we focus on teacher knowledge, but not focus clearly on teacher subject matter knowledge and also pedagogical content knowledge, how to teach a specific subject, not quite clear in our standards, and also TPAC, using technology into teaching specific concepts. And teaching skill, we talk about it and it's quite clear. But for myself, I think we have to add more about teacher values, teacher self-identity, and help them learning how to teach and also reflective thinking. There is no document to address these kind of things. And also, I think not just only teacher standard, but also teacher educator standard. We have to look at ourselves as teacher educator. I'm not sure in the future, maybe it's very important, and also schools supervisor. Okay, I have just only 1 minute. Okay, so 2 more slides. Okay, how we have to take a look at how we prepare our student teachers or our teachers, particularly in help them to have reflective thinking and work together with the school and also MOE. Think about induction, because in Thailand we don't have induction program, honestly. And last one, so what? What is the next steps? We have to think and ask our question, ask many questions, particularly in the second one, what is the value and attitude of the teachers in Thailand? Who is a teacher educator? What are teacher roles? How do we know how to develop teachers? Do we have know-how? And the last one, how can we bring our research into practice and voice to policymakers to develop our standard? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, now we move on to our last presentation from Vietnam, Dr. Thao Thi Chau Thuy from University of Social Science and Humanities. You are welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to share Vietnamese national competency standard for teacher. Actually, for teacher, not educator. Yeah. At the moment, in Vietnam, we have three national competency standard for teacher. One is a preschool teacher, and second one is the primary education, and the third one is secondary and high school teacher. Yeah, actually now we haven't complete for higher education. Yeah, we haven't complete for higher education. So in each level we have each competency, right? Now but actually they have a common characteristic. We have three domains. First one is political and moral qualities, lifestyle and behaviors. First indicator is dedicated to the job. Actually, in my country, it's difficult because their salary don't enough to cover basic needs. So it's difficult to dedicate to job. The second indicator is have a self-responsible and follow the discipline. They have a teamwork skill and cooperate and collaborate with courage to fulfill the program educational objectives. The second standard is capability of curriculum development. They have to developing curriculum for three levels. One is a sports school, the second one is subject, and the third one is a fourth topic. So it's a fourth developing curriculum. Indicator 2, they have to be planning for teaching and using hands-on experience, and preparing lesson and plan by broadening knowledge and creative thinking for students, and connecting the study with practice in local and regional context to that students acknowledge and knowledge obligation for their life as well as more chance to study in higher level. The third standard is the capability of teaching. They must organize a learning activity based on student ability, and design and organize learning activity upon interdisciplinary subject. Develop learning environment and culture and facilitate. And they must adapt teaching well to respond to strengths and needs of final years. And assess student outcomes based on a student ability approach. And they must receive then provide information to students and adjust the teaching process. The fourth standard is the capacity of educating. Teacher must understand learning objective and learning environments, design and organize creative learning activity. And they have to educate students with these advantages and apply inclusive education, cooperate and communicate with stakeholders like family, community, and students to support students. They develop educational environment for students and they must assess student performance and use peer assessment method. The fifth standard about capability of doing research and implementing practical study. They have to identify and relate research issues with practical needs and collaborate and community with students present and community in doing research. And they must implement research and evaluate research outcomes and transfer results to school and society. This standard, all teachers in my country from secondary to higher education, they have a product for each year. Yeah. This standard is about capability in social activity. They must participate and organize social activity, establish school, family, and community partnerships. Encourage children to go to school. Why we need encourage children go to school? Because actually in my country there are lots of students, they are disadvantaged. Especially in the mountain and so far from city. So we have to encourage children to go to school and have disadvantages people in society. The seventh standard about the capability of understanding objective and educational environment. They must have their own method to collect and process data on each student circumstance. Much use data for teaching activity and have a method to collect and process data on educational condition, issue, and political, economic, cultural, and social situation of school, local area, and use them for teaching and learning activity. Yeah. The last one is the standard age about the capacity for professional development. They have to be conscious and self-assess, self-study, and self-training in professional qualification and morality to improve the quality and efficiency through teaching process. And they must identify and address problems in practice to meet new requirements in education. Is the last one competency in Vietnam is thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for presentation from Vietnam. So now we have come to the ending part. We have called upon our presenters to the front row here, and we would welcome all the questions for answer or for discussion. We have prepared a small piece of paper. Anyone would like to ask a question can raise your hand, and we will give you a small piece of paper or a microphone. Let me see. We have about 10 minutes for the discussion, okay? I would like to welcome questions from the floor. Is there any question? Okay, we have one question over there. Can we have some collective questions, please? I think we have seen that education cannot be understood without outside of its own context. Okay, although we have like some commonalities, but we also have some differences as well, and some key issues that need to be addressed for future teacher education in ASEAN. Okay. First of all, we have quite a few questions here. Okay, let me go to the first question from Philippines first. Okay. For Philippines, the 1-year practicum Can you give a detailed practice of how organization you make student-teacher work at school for the whole year? What do they do and how you assess them?
It's not for Philippines, it's for Thailand.
Oh, for Thailand?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. This one is for Thailand, okay. Sorry.
That's what I think for Thailand. Can you hear? Yes.
Okay, I will repeat the question, okay? For 1 year practicum, can you give a detailed practice of how organization you make student-teacher work at school for the whole year?
Yes.
What do they do and how you assess them?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. The student teacher have to do their studies for a whole year. There are 2 semesters. The first semester, they have to teach at least one subject and work with their cooperating teachers at school. And there is another one is the university supervisor. So who is in charge of supervise them? There are 2 key persons: school supervisors and also university supervisor. Okay, and for the first semester they just teach and not just teach and also do some kind of teacher job and also do some project like extra projects. Particularly, for example, for science students, they do like a science project for students. But for the second semester, the students have to teach and also do action research. They do action research for develop their own teaching at the same time. So this is what happened in the student teaching.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have 2 questions for Singapore. The first question is, how do you maintain the quality of teacher training in your country? And the second question is, who are the mentoring teachers? How are they appointed as mentors? What are the characteristics of the mentors?
Maintain the quality of teachers, student teachers,
teacher training.
Teacher training, maintain the quality of teacher training. Yeah, maintain the quality of teacher training. Okay, in the case of, we have appraisal for teacher educators, right? So at the end of the 1 year, all teacher educators will be appraised by the department head, and then we'll get a performance bonus according to that. So from we'll submit our teaching portfolio. So for teacher educators who fall below the mark, then they will be mentored further, and that's one way in terms of quality of teaching. Okay? In the case of student teachers, before student teachers. So for example, supervising of teacher or student teachers during practicum, to maintain the same standard and quality, because I'm the assistant dean of practicum, so I will conduct mentoring workshop for our staff, so that we can all speak the same language and so on. So that's another way to maintain the quality. And the other one is?
The other one is, who are the mentoring teachers and how are they appointed as mentors? And what are the characteristics?
Okay, mentoring teachers are like same as Thailand, they're called cooperating teachers. They are appointed by the school. So the school coordinating mentors, so overall in charge of all the coordinating teachers, they will appoint accordingly. And again, I will conduct workshops, mentoring workshops for these cooperating teachers. But of course, there are so many of them in Singapore, not all of them will attend, but every year I will try to conduct and try to reach out to as many people as possible. So that again, they will speak the same language.
Okay. We have 3 more questions. For Vietnam, you say teacher salaries in Vietnam is low. What are the second jobs of teachers in Vietnam? So, do teachers in Vietnam have second jobs?
Thank you for your question. Actually, in Vietnam, the teacher now have a second job, but they have extra class outside school. So it means they are tutor. A tutor for children, family, if they want to improve their children. Yeah. So it's a most job in for teacher in my country. Yeah. Extra class.
Okay, so I think that's pretty common. I think in Thailand we have teachers do that also. Okay, I think this could be our last question because we have only 3 minutes, and this question is, I think, like could be for anyone here. Okay, this question is about could there be any common competency framework for ASEAN possible? What kind of competencies that could be common competencies for ASEAN in anyone's view? From Uki, our former president.
Hello? Alright. I think when we are talking about teachers in ASEAN, we could probably focus when we are talking about things in common. Understanding, cross-cultural understanding among nations would probably be one which could be shared among our countries, so that the students in Indonesia would understand better cultural things existing in ASEAN countries, rather than learning and acquiring cultural points from other countries. Then we probably have to prioritize cross-cultural understanding among countries in ASEAN. So therefore, other things like the standards that we have listed just now, they are of course common globally, universally, but and then one thing which is probably good for ASEAN teachers to know ASEAN better.
Okay, for me, I would like to share the point of view. In ASEAN, we can make the common one for the teachers reason, especially we can focus on the methodology of teaching. This is very important also, and as I know, most of the country are introduced inquiry-based method. For all countries, in Cambodia also introduce it, Thailand also introduce it, inquiry-based method, and Philippines also, and Singapore also like that. So this is also the common one that we can make it into one for the Asian identity.
Anyone else? Okay, from Philippines.
After listening to all the presentations, I think we will find out there are so many areas which should be commonly shared. If we look at all the domains, we have identified certain domains that I think most countries share, like especially in teaching principles, methodologies, assessment, and so on. But I would also go for the suggestion of Indonesia to also put in our qualifications framework, in our teacher competency framework, an understanding of the socio-cultural differences of each country, but at the same time, what we commonly share as an ASEAN. Who is an ASEAN teacher? And I think that is another thing that we need to incorporate in our ASEAN framework for teaching.
Okay, from Thailand?
Yes, I think we have quite shared and common teacher competency. For example, teaching pedagogy and also content or something. But before we develop a new, more common teacher competency, I think we have to look at what we would like our student, like Asian student or citizen, Asian citizen to be. So we have to think about that and then back to teacher competency.
Okay, Jessie.
To my knowledge, senior, you know senior? Zero has really come out with a competency level for ASEAN. So maybe you can refer to that.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I think like the time has up. We have used up the time already. So I think like this session brings us more understanding about each country's teacher education competency. However, for the concurrent session, I would like to encourage all of you to attend the session so that you can learn more about the practices and all the challenges that are found in the real setting, okay? And I think like that would be very useful in terms of how to reflect more upon to get the insight of what really happening in the site as well. So please give a big round of applause to our presenters. Let me give you a brief information about the concurrent session. We're going to have a break on the 3rd floor, the same place that you had this morning. And the concurrent session would begin in about 15 minutes at 3 p.m. Okay, and the presentations would be at Ubon Riang Suwan room. They are on this floor, on this level. Okay, at room 407, 408, and 409. There are 4 rooms. Okay, you can look up in the abstract book for more detail. Okay, thank you very much for all your attention.